behavior impossible for any known aircraft then or indeed today. At 11:50, the RAF scrambled a de Havilland Venom fighter to investigate. The pilot said he had a bright white light in sight and would investigate, but lost the target almost immediately. He was redirected to the UFO, which was now stationary 16 miles southwest of the base. Soon after, the pilot was told that it was half a mile dead ahead. He replied, "Roger, I've got my guns on him," meaning that he had his radar system locked on. He later said it was the clearest target I've ever seen on radar. After a pause, he asked, "Where did he go? Do you still have him?" The Lakenheath radar operator then told him that the UFO had made a swift circular movement and was now behind his aircraft. The pilot confirmed this and said he would try to shake it. He tried everything. He climbed, he dived, he circled, but the UFO acted like it was glued right behind him, always the same distance, very close, but there were always two distinct targets. The radar echo behind the jet indicated a distance of 500 feet. Still unable to shake the UFO off his tail, the pilot requested assistance. For 10 minutes he tried to lose it. He was getting worried, excited, and pretty spooked. Then, sounding quite scared, he said he was returning to base as his fuel was low. He asked if the UFO was following him and told that it did for a while, and then resumed its stationary position. A second Venom was scrambled but turned back with engine malfunctions. The pilots spoke to each other. "Did you see anything?" "I saw something, but I'll be damned if I know what it was." "What happened?" "He or it got behind me, and I did everything I could to get behind him, and I couldn't. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen." The UFO stayed for a while and then flew off to the north at about 600 miles per hour around 3:30 a.m. Lakenheath's radars continued to spot UFOs that night. The RAF scrambled another wave of Venoms to intercept them. In one Venom, the navigator made contact with the UFO and advised his pilot, "Contact there, it's out 45 degrees starboard, now at 1 mile. But the pilot couldn't see it, even as they rushed past it. They tried several times, and the radar operator said there was something there. A second Venom had no more success, so they went home. Soon after, the blips melted away from the screens for good, leaving them dark and empty, save for the ceaseless 4-second sweep of the scope and the familiar glow of routine light traffic. Shortly afterwards, a secret cable was sent from headquarters in Washington expressing considerable interest and concern and demanding an immediate inquiry. This case is important because of its unknown classification throughout the investigatory system. Project Blue Book concluded that it was unlikely that a meteorological or astronomical source was responsible. All personnel interviewed and logs lend reality to the existence of some unexplainable flying phenomena near this airfield. Analysis of the sightings is that they were real and not fragments of the imagination. Even the University of Colorado report, which almost always finds rational explanations, stated that at least one UFO appeared to be genuine and that the apparently rational, intelligent behavior of the phenomena suggests a mechanical device of unknown origins as the most probable explanation. What chased that venom? Perhaps one day we'll know. Or perhaps it will remain a mystery forever.
Wow. What do you say to something like that, right?
I know.
Unbelievable. That's one of those cases that are the small percentage in the Blue Book files that came out unexplained.
Absolutely. And it was unexplained by any of the investigatory committees. You were talking earlier about the synchronicity of how things come up when we talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
At the last investigation of this phenomenon by a committee called the Lakenheath Committee, they approached the British government to see what their take on the whole thing was, as it happened over their air bases and in their airspace.
Right.
And the British government politely told them that everything referring to UFOs before 1962 had been routinely destroyed. The paperwork had been destroyed.
Interesting.
Interesting, because this week on the news, we hear...
Hold on a second. This is great.
Of wartime sightings of UFOs are now being released, 100 or so this week.
Yeah, that's right. This is the second huge installment. That's so funny you were going to mention that. We are right on par. We work so well together.
Yes, we do.
And all these stories are British.
Yes. Well, this one was over the British airspace, but it involved the U.S. because they had a nuclear base there.
That's right.
This was a very, very dodgy time in world political history, because I'm old enough to remember it, but I was only a kid, but I can remember it.
Right.
And the Russians were the bogeymen. You know, you were really scared of Russians.
Mm-hmm.
And the Suez Crisis, in which I believe it was Ethiopia, I would have to check my facts on that, took over the Suez Canal and stopped the traffic through it.
Right.
Was such a touchy subject, and it could easily have sparked World War III at any moment.
Honestly, it's a scary world. Now, when you mentioned the release of those British files, incidentally, Winston Churchill is a huge part of this of these files coming out, because in one of the documents, excuse me, it's stated now. It's almost third party, so it can't be proven, but it's stated that I think the grandson or of Churchill, Winston Churchill, or someone associated with Churchill, stated that Churchill actually ordered the cover-up of the UFO phenomenon in his heyday. So I think that's really interesting.
Yes.
It's already been mentioned on certain broadcasts. I'll mention it now. I was going to mention it later in the show, but it's hard for me to stay on top of all the paranormal news because there's two radio broadcasts, one in particular, my favorites, and they're on the pulse. And this guy has 3 shows a week, so it's impossible for me to stay on top of the news. But like regular media, it's got to be spread somehow. So here we are. So that story of Winston Churchill releasing this, or the story of Churchill ordering the government cover-up, is important, not because it's Winston Churchill, but because it's a story that's going to reach the masses of a person of high caliber and caste being directly involved with the cover-up and involvement with the UFO scenario in general. So, very interesting story indeed. The story that you related is phenomenal, and it's one of many. There's a plethora of Army, military, Navy stories being directly involved. Actually, the last episode, I don't know if you're familiar, but Don Ledger wrote a book with Chris Stiles called Dark Object, and it's the story of, quote-unquote, the government's only documented UFO crash.
Wow. No, I wasn't familiar with that.
Yeah.
That sounds like something I would like to read.
Yeah, very good.
Yes, I heard that about Winston Churchill as well. But I also heard that he was very, very interested himself personally in the phenomena, but he felt that it would be it was during wartime, and he didn't want to panic everybody.
That's right. Well, we would be naive to think that people of power, governments in general, wouldn't be interested in a phenomena that affected directly national security and the protection of its people.
Yes, this is very true.
So, an amazing story, again, brought to us from Sylvia Richards. Sylvia, I want to apologize just quickly because today in the studio here, Unified Field Radio Studio, we have, I like to call it Cafe Brown, because my lovely girlfriend is, she's creating all kinds of, you would really love her. You guys would get along great. She's making herbal teas, and she's been distilling St. John's wort for me back there for days.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of tea and coffee and herbal remedies going on in the background. So
yes, I'm really, really into herbs. I have my own herb garden, and I'm very much so.
You know what we should do? We should, one of these installments, maybe in between one of the installments, get you on just to talk about you and your experiences.
Well, certainly. I mean, I've had a lot of experiences. I don't know exactly what I would talk about, but certainly.
All we'd have to do is just stick our hand in the hat, and we'd have a whole bunch of stuff. Sylvia,
Well, probably.
well, I want to thank you for joining us on another exciting edition of the Calendar of the Paranormal and being part of our team, Sylvia. We're extremely grateful to have you.
And I'm very privileged to be a part of your team and be here with you.
Did you catch the last episode, the Stanton Friedman, on YouTube?
I did. I just listened to it, actually, in the last couple of days.
It's epic.
It's very, very good. Very wonderful.
Great. But did you like the stinger that I gave to you for the Calendar of the Paranormal? Kind of a spooky little quasi-sci-fi intro.
Yes, it was very good. Gosh, it even made me want to listen to it myself.
Well, thanks for being here, Sylvia. We can't wait to talk to you in 2 weeks' time.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't go anywhere. There's lots more to come. We're just getting started here on UFR. We've got the Exopolitical Pulse coming up. Stick around.
Experience the Caribbean and India without the airfare. Rani's Curry and Roti Shop serves up authentic Caribbean and Indian food. Rani's has all your favorites. Curry chicken, beef, mutton, goat, buttered chicken, chickpea and potato are all available in a roti wrap. Rani's is the real deal. It's real with imported ingredients and a deal with $5 lunch specials and a 10% student discount. So come on down to Rani's at 5280 Green Street, just off Queen, and experience authentic curry and roti for yourself.
Tune into Radio Numerica every week to count down CKDU's Top 30. Radio Numerica airs Mondays from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. on CKDU 88.1 FM or online at ckdu.ca.
This is Adam from Northern BC, and you're listening to The Unified Field on CKDU.
Yes, and of course, that is Seth Smith, local hero here. That's from his solo record entitled New Problems. So check that out. Grab it on vinyl if you can, and any Dog Day record. Good stuff right there. Welcome back to UFR. This is the next segment of the show entitled The Exopolitical Pulse with our good correspondent Adam from the north. We have quite a dialogue going on here, so let's get into it. All right, here we go with the wonderful Adam, straight from northern BC. Adam, how you doing?
Doing very well, Justin. Yourself?
I'm doing great now that you're with us again on your second installment of the Exopolitical Pulse.
Once again, excited to be here.
We missed you. So what's new and exciting in the world of the paranormal?
Well, paranormal activity has been sort of on the rise here in the last couple weeks anyway. There's been a lot of stories on stuff. There's been sightings all over the States and all over Europe, and a couple landmark things have been happening, I guess.
Yeah, you know what? Last episode, I was missing you and missing the internet as well, so I decided to devote a magazine publication, all the stories from that publication, to the Exopolitical Pulse and kind of cover that magazine. It was Paranormal News.
Okay.
And today, just before I called you, I went over and I picked up a few new ones. I've always been trying to get a nice copy of Open Minds by Alejandro Rojas. And the last one, it was news that I'd known about for a really long time. Like they had like the news about the Vatican releasing information that, you know, space brothers wouldn't be so distant from the idea of God.